And welcome back. We were on a break. You're listening to and watching South Texas Crossfire with your host, Attorney Joe Flores. And we just had on the Ted Turner of South Texas Broadcasting, Carlos Lopez, the broadcaster, the television god that makes it happen, that puts us on, and we thank him. The only family-owned Hispanic station left in South Texas, and we are very honored to be on here, and he gives us a voice. And we also want to venerate and honor his father, who passed away last year, Don Humberto Lozano Lopez, who started all this, the patriarch. Now, staying in that vein, let's roll up our sleeves and get into action with politics. I'm telling you, it's going to be a full contact sport, and we're not going to stop. We're going to be covering anything. There's not going to be any filtered stuff. If somebody is blowing it, if somebody's going to get blasted, we're going to bring them on, and we're going to talk about it. They wanted to run, they're going to have to face the voters, and that's it, period. You want on this show, and if you don't come out, guess what? We're going to talk about you anyway. So, anyway, with that being said, I have the honor of bringing on, love him, hate him, but never ignore him, Homero Villarreal, the man from El Defensor magazine. Welcome. How are you?
It's an honor to be here, Joe.
All right, man. Now, Homero, I like the whole Wolverine thing going on, man. You're an animal, man. But anyway, look, we were talking about politics, and right before you came in, I said, look, we're going to talk about what is changing in South Texas politics and why more people, more politicians, and the political machines are investing in your newspaper and investing in Carlos Lopez, the Hispanic-generated media machine. Tell us about what's going on.
Well, the beauty of it all, Joe, that back then, years back, when it was pretty much a one-party system historically, I think that pretty much Democrats took it for granted. I think politicos became career politicians. You had talk people in talk radio like Vicente Carranza that believed that nothing was going to change. They said, I can predict who they're going to vote for the next 20 years. That's how predictable the environment was. It was pretty much Democratic Party turf. But something has happened now that Republicans have won. Well, the thing is that back then it was pretty much a structured, predictable situation. Now, I think one of the guys that we need to give credit, one of the Republicans, I think here was Tom Greenwald. I think Tom Greenwald listened to the people carefully when he ran as a Republican. He lost the first time around for judge. What he did, he regrouped, he retrenched, and he found that actually South Texas is a very unique collective a cultural identity that can be used to mobilize a base and acquire the necessary votes to get in office. I think Greenwald had, he told me once, he had worked, I think as a researcher for the appellate courts, and there the courthouse culture itself gave him a boost, where there's natural networks and everything else. But one thing we discussed was the predictability of candidates that were there for a long time. Politicos, well, we had the palanca, the history of the palanca in South Texas, where pretty much the old political boss would tell his workers how to vote, pick them up in back of a pickup truck. I remember my father getting back of a pickup truck.
The casita system.
Yeah, I used to tell my father, "Hey, Dad, you can go vote." "Why, son?" He goes, "Well, he wasn't a U.S. citizen yet. He was born in Mexico." "Hey, Dad, you can go." "Well, the boss says I can." The old system was in place. They would go to.
You want a job? You want to work in the school district? Yeah. You get in the back. You vote for who we told you.
Yeah, and that was the system back then. But now, it's inspiring because even the radio stations, whether it was Keys or, whatever, Hispanic station or Tejano station, or pretty much they were predictable what party they were aligned with. Now you're starting to see the radio stations, because of economic necessity and other factors involved, that now both parties are they're catering to both parties to the point, and both parties are investing and discovering that not everybody has an official organization, that there's actually some informal groups called politiqueras that actually operate, do some marketing of their own,
Susie
have,
Luna?
have networks.
Grassroots consultants?
You know, there's many natural groups out there that can. Remember, sometimes to win an election, all you need is a 5%, 15%, like Tom Greenwald needed to really win that election round. And now he's a judge, you know, and I think he's going to be running for a new office. But what do the times tell you and the change and everything else? Well, it tells you one thing, is that it requires a new type of politico. And they're exciting times because I noticed that politicos can't function in an unstructured situation. Everything has to be pretty much predictable. When they walk in a room, they want to know they're Democrats or they're Republicans. They're going to have their rally group there. But you're going to start to see that because people can pick up on their sincerity. People can pick up in that little wrinkle in their heart what they stand for. So when they start talking, people are going to start seeing, is this guy for real or not? And then he's going to be challenged by the masses, by the captive audiences there. And that's going to be very unique. The barrios and everything else are and these are another times of, you know, an environment of conflict resolution where Republicans won, but now Democrats can make a comeback. I think they're going to invest a lot of money. I think we heard that Phil Vela might be running as a Democrat.
Well, he put out something on the email, and that's surprising, but I think somebody had started to blast him, and they shut her up. They basically said, look, you work for us. Here's how complicated it is. She said that he's a low, snake in the grass because he helped his wife who decided to run Republican. And then what I heard, and this is confirmed by good sources, is they said to this lady who's a rabble-rouser, said, be quiet. You're working for us. Don't cross Phil Vela, right? And because there's a lot of money involved. I hear Watts wants to give him money. You know, and all these people, these trial lawyers that can write checks, and he's cashing in on the good welfare of his father, too. I mean, when you have schools and a courthouse named after you and your father's namesake, it kind of helps with voting, honestly. But I don't know how that race will turn out. We wish him the best of luck, of course. Yeah. But, I mean, there are people here locally that are running, and then, you know, and everything ties in because his wife, interestingly, is running for what? Court of Appeals. So, I mean,
the interesting thing is that I noticed that way back then when Lauro Cuellar was the Democratic chair, then he turned Republican. There was some disenchantment, but I think it was an indication of something that I think that the old palanca system, the old structures of that existed in the past, the old power groups were crumbling. The balloons were deflating. The cake was crumbling. Yeah, it was a new era. I think people now are smaller groups. Many people used in this past election, I understand, the Republican Party because it was the only way to use a ready-made organization. It's very hard to create an organization and run against Democrats. So many use the Republican Party as a ready-made organization with resources and people to challenge some of the people that they wanted to challenge. And I think they ran as conservatives, not so much as Republicans. You would hear Lloyd Neal saying, hey, we have to support this person because he is a conservative. And not really, the Republican word never quite included in the word. But you're starting to see that there's no big, huge structure in place anymore. You're starting to see that a new type of politico is going to be required. It's going to be indispensable. It's going to be necessary. And that's one that can go before the people, where you have a bunch of competing groups, and this is America, you know what I mean? Competition, the free enterprise system, it's what makes the world go round and what shapes change. Remember, you have different groups fighting with each other. There's eventually they come down, they agree on things, and that's how change comes about, and new political structures emerge here in South Texas. But the uniqueness is the Anglo-Mexican thing also, that Anglos are starting to realize, hey, we live in South Texas. This is the best of the South, and this is the best of the North. I hear many Anglos tell me, I go up north, I don't feel as good as South Texas. I mean, there's something about South Texas, and that's the relationship between the Hispanic community and the Anglos that's forming, that we got to take care of each other. We're one community. We're becoming, we take care of your kids, you take care of our kids. We're becoming one in a larger sense of consciousness. But the politico that's gonna emerge is one. If he's Anglo, he's gonna have to reach out to the Hispanic community, and like Carlos before me, that you had him here on the show, he pointed out you cannot ignore the Hispanic media entities like the Lopez family. Why? Well, because the Lopez family, first of all, is one of the few games in town, the media that you can go to, that has a collective, unique identity with the community. That you remember, you're trying to acquire so many votes, you're trying to get your message out. So that's what it's all about, mobilizing. The other thing is, what is you talked about the novice politician. Let's say a young non-Hispanic wants to run for office. He says, well, what do I do? What does he do, Joe? I mean, he says, do I need to learn the language? Well, not really. What you need to do is people need to feel that you're sensitive and understanding about the community you're going to serve. You're sensitive about, that's more important, because you see many even Hispanic politicos that are cold-blooded. Jose Perez or Homero Villarreal, and he gets into office, becomes a career politician, speaks good Spanish, loves tacos, but forgets about his community.
The oppressed becomes the oppressor.
And what people really want to see is somebody that's approachable, that doesn't separate himself, distance himself from the community, that's warm, that's understanding. I don't come here with an arrogant attitude to change you, and for you to become like me. I come here with an attitude, what can we do together to better the community? And but it's going to require a certain spirit, a certain fire, and a certain sincerity. El Politico is going to have to sit down and examine his values, because pretty much people, after you're being queried by the community and by different groups and women's groups and different interest groups, the contradictions are going to come out. So you're going to have to sit down and meditate and find out what you really believe in, what your values are. And then when you get in front of the audience, be prepared to defend, be prepared to stand up for what you believe in, and try and share with the people as honestly as possible, because it's going to come out. Get used to being in a competitive audience, facing a competitive audience, because if you don't, you're going to get nervous. You're going to get paranoid. You're going to get, all these emotions are going to be bombarding inside your mind like a bumblebee. And but if you're clear, you have the power of clarity, you have the power of focus about what you stand for, then you'll be able to function, and people will respect you for that. Standing up for what you really believe in. The novice politician, my advice is to try and find issues that carry emotional weight for their constituents. What is important for their constituents? Don't try and impose on the constituents, hey, I can help you all out, this is the solution. No, it's the other way around. The communities have the solution. They know what the problems are. You get them involved. All you can be is a resource, a technocrat, somebody that brings resources that can to help them solve the problems, and it requires a new type of politico. Not that I'm going to do for you in this struggle. I'm going to be one with you. And both of us are going to, work, get out and really hit the pavement and get the goals done. And I mean, how do you feel, Joe, about a novice politician coming into office?
Well,
in these times, what does it require?